Discover the amazing journey of three unlikely heroes who transformed their lives against all odds. Sarah stood in the small attic, a haze of dust swirling in the sunbeam that dared to penetrate the gloom. The air was thick, weighing heavily on her shoulders, much like the burden of her two jobs that barely kept her afloat. She glanced at her father's old camera, its leather case cracked, but the device itself intact, untouched by time. Her heartbeat quickened, a rush of nostalgia mixed with a flicker of hope. Wouldn't it be something if she could breathe life into her long-buried dreams? She hesitated, a feeling of inadequacy wrapping around her like a vice. Could she really pick up where she left off, all those years ago, when the world felt bright and full of possibilities? She felt torn between her children's needs and her own aspirations. Every moment spent nurturing her aspirations felt like a betrayal to them. Internal questions swirled in her mind. Could she afford to chase a dream? What if her efforts were futile, leaving them hungry, desolate? The more she thought about it, the more she felt trapped, time slipping away with every tick of the clock as she busied herself with chores. The allure of possibility danced just out of reach, a tantalizing reflection of her own desire in the camera lens. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The weight of Sarah's dilemma bore down heavier than any shift she felt from her two jobs. There in the attic, while half-familiar dust motes danced in the dim light, she recalled her father's laughter and the way he used to encourage her creativity. But society's expectations had laid shackles on her desires. She hesitated, fingers trembling as they brushed the camera's surface. The urge to escape from the monotony of life's demands wrestled fiercely with the instinct to care for her children. A single choice loomed before her, a pivotal moment tinged with uncertainty. The question now was whether to retake her life or to let another precious chance slip through her fingers. At the same time, Jake was wrestling with his own demons on the other side of town. Kneeling in the grease-stained garage, where tools hung like jury-rig art, he found an old sketchbook amid the clutter. Flipping through, a pang of longing surged within him. He could almost hear the laughter of childhood friends. They teased him over his desire to paint, taunted him until he buried those dreams deep. Now, armed with a swipe of nostalgia and the spark ignited by a recent late-night conversation with Sarah, the shadows of doubt loomed larger. The fear of judgment gnawed at him, whispering that he was wasting his potential on impractical pursuits, while an inner voice screamed for him to break free. What if they succeeded? What if they were met with resistance? As Sarah stared into the lens of her father's abandoned dreams, urgency collided with fear. They stood at the precipice of a new beginning, but would the world have space for their vulnerabilities? Just as purpose seemed tangible, the worry gnawed at Sarah's resolve. Could she bear the weight of potential disappointment if their stories remained unheard? It was all their existence had led to, trepidation overshadowing aspirations. As these three unlikely heroes prepared to break free from their invisible chains, the winds of change rustled, carrying whispers of fleeting hopes and new beginnings. But in the quiet of the night, tension thickened, unraveling fragile promises of resilience into threads of potential despair. The path ahead shimmered with possibility, yet darkness loomed, threatening to engulf them. Would they possess the courage to confront what lay ahead? In the following days, Sarah dwelled in her attic sanctum, wrestling with newfound purpose that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Each morning, she would rise with an intention, a flicker of determination that gradually eclipsed the specters of self-doubt. The camera beckoned to her, begging her to remember the aspirations that lay buried beneath years of practical decisions and relentless responsibilities. She resolved to dedicate time to photography, even if it meant carving out precious moments away from her children. That dilemma weighed heavily on her thoughts. Could the pursuit of a dream coexist with the obligations of motherhood? With each click of the shutter, she was not just capturing images but reclaiming parts of herself. The first few shots were clumsy, They felt more like imitations of an art form she once loved than a revival. Frustration bubbled. Would it be enough after all this time? During a particularly focus-driven session, she spotted her son, Tom, mesmerized by the camera's lens as if it cast a spell. He wore a tiny smirk, mirroring her father's encouragement from years past. That moment cracked her resolve. Could she inspire her children by embracing her dreams? Would they see courage in her vulnerability rather than neglect? The dichotomy resonated, the potential for both fulfillment and failure pressed against her mind. Meanwhile, Jake's encounters with the old sketchbook fueled a fire he thought extinguished. Each day, he uncovered more sketches fractured, bold, filled with promise. The reality of his stifled creativity amalgamated into a cloud of frustration and longing. What kind of man would he be if he embraced his talent? Torn between the safety of routine and the peril of self-expression, he found himself in cafe corners late into the night, sketching, reveling in the act. With each stroke of the pencil, doubts gave way to exuberance, but fear of judgment from friends, the whispers of inadequacy lingered like a specter. Aiming to conquer this fear, Jake invited Sarah to a local art exhibit showcasing emerging talents. Would their collective rawness fit into a realm where pretension often reigned? As he lingered at the entrance, sweaty palms betraying his cool facade, he questioned if they could even belong in a space defined by critique. What if he exposed himself as an amateur among seasoned artists? But as he thought of Sarah, battling her struggles, hope blazed through the apprehension. It was their shared journey that fortified him against self-doubt. That Saturday, as they stood amidst beautifully framed paintings, Jake and Sarah exchanged stories, aspirations, and fears. They discussed their shared commitment to pursue dreams despite the looming shadows of worry. Together, they ignited an uncomfortable but thrilling dialogue of ambition, vulnerability, and growth. The budding alliance sparked a sense of urgency, fueled by the weight of their chosen aspirations, but Sarah's reality tugged hard against her newfound courage. The inevitable challenge came when she overheard her children laughing without her downstairs, joy simmering from the very moments she feared abandoning. She felt the sharp slice of guilt rip through her, reminding her that ambition often danced perilously close to neglect. How could she continue this pursuit when it emotionally strained the very roots of her family? As the night drew to an end, she and Jake made plans to collaborate on an art project, merging both their talents into a venture that radiated authenticity. Little did she know that the journey ahead would demand far greater confrontations than mere self-doubt. It would require honesty about her own needs, the complex balance of motherhood, and the depths of her own creativity. In that moment of departure, Sarah left the gallery feeling both empowered and conflicted. Though the future glimmered with the promise of discovery, a shadow loomed. Would their aspirations thrive amidst the chaos of their realities? As they stepped out into the crisp night, the question lingered painfully: was she indeed ready to confront the challenges that accompanied the pursuit of her dream? The next few days unfolded like a delicate balancing act for Sarah. Every moment spent behind the camera felt both exhilarating and guilt-laden. As she captured life through her lens, she felt her essence return, yet each snapshot stung with the knowledge of her children laughing and playing just a few rooms away. The echoes of their joy resonated in her mind, a reminder of the maternal obligations she feared she was neglecting. Determined to immerse herself more fully into her photography, Sarah sought inspiration beyond her attic. The world outside beckoned: parks, bustling streets, solitary moments waiting to be immortalized. Each location presented new challenges, but with every click, she yearned to communicate the depth of her vision. However, with each successful shot, the joy that should have flooded her heart was often tainted by the incessant whisper of guilt. One evening, while reviewing her latest photographs, she received a text from Jake. "Let us meet at the cafe tomorrow. I have something to show you." The sudden anticipation unsettled her. Was it his sketches a raw display of his vulnerability? Or was it a plea for partnership in their creative journey? She hesitated before responding, her determination battling the nagging fear of inadequacy. The next day, she arrived at the cafe immersed in a swirl of thoughts. Would her work even matter to him? Could she measure up in their collaborative venture? As she pushed through the door, her nervous energy was mitigated by the tantalizing aroma of roasted beans and pastries. Jake was already seated, an open sketchbook before him, pencil poised mid-air as if suspended in thought. "Hey, look at this," he exclaimed, flipping the pages. As she perused the sketches, she felt a rush of admiration and insecurity. Each drawing was a battle cry against complacency, a vivid testament of rebellion against doubt. Jake glanced up, catching her rapt expression. "What do you think?" It struck her. He was laying bare pieces of his psyche, daring her to see not a mere collection of sketches, but an act of defiance against his self-imposed boundaries. "They are incredible," she finally managed, her heart quickening. "You've captured so much emotion here." But as she spoke, the deep ambition within her began to clash with the fears still lurking in her mind. "I want to contribute something meaningful to this project," she confessed, vulnerability dripping from her words. "But what if it isn't enough?" A flicker of understanding passed between them, a shared acknowledgement of the tension they both faced. "What if it is?" he countered gently. "We are not in this to be perfect. It's about expressing ourselves." His words ignited a spark within her. She felt the weight of her uncertainty dissolve, replaced by a flicker of hope. With renewed determination, they discussed their creative vision, contemplating a fusion of photography and art. Borrowing skills from each other, they would lay down a tangible representation of their intertwined journeys. But lurking within the excitement was the specter of uncertainty. Could they truly push past their personal barriers to create something authentic? As Sarah made her way home, she felt a poignant mix of resolve and trepidation. Later that night, she sat in front of her camera, reflecting on the day's events. The flickering light illuminated the walls of her attic, transforming into a cocoon of possibility. Would her children understand her journey, or would they only see a mother who chose art over their laughter? The following day loomed her first chance to blend her passion with motherhood. Wanting to incorporate her family into her photography, she envisioned a series portraying the beauty of their everyday life, weaving her art into the tapestry of their shared experiences. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. As she gathered her children for the first shoot, an unexpected burst of doubt crashed through her. Was she merely trying to justify her pursuits, or could this venture genuinely enhance their relationship? Sarah aimed the camera at her children and took a deep breath, questioning whether this melding of dreams and realities could truly yield harmony. The moment felt pivotal. Her new path depended on this experimentation, and with each click, she hoped to capture something more than just an image. She sought to crystallize the essence of courage. Little did she know that unveiling true emotions behind the lens would require a deeper examination of herself, one that might challenge her perceptions of what it meant to be both a mother and an artist. She pressed the shutter, the click reverberating like a profound declaration. She was ready to face the complexities of her new path. But could she truly embrace the unfolding journey ahead? With the sound of the shutter echoing in her ears, Sarah felt her breath catch in her throat. This moment was more significant than just a photograph. It was a commitment. She scrutinized the scene before her, the vibrant chaos of her children, their unfiltered joy brimming, a riot of colors and emotions she yearned to capture. "Let us play a game," she blurted out, trying to chase away the tightness in her chest. They loved games, and she knew it would elicit genuine laughter and movement, giving her the organic shots she craved. The moment she said those words, relief swept over her, and for once, the guilt faded into the background. As the session progressed, her initial trepidation morphed into something more energetic. The camera became an extension of herself, the physical click aligning with her heartbeats. Each photo she snapped revealed a layer of the intricate bond she shared with her children, their laughter melting her doubts. Later that evening, Sarah dove into editing the photos with an eagerness that surprised her. Each image transformed under her careful touch, the colors deepening, the emotions sharpened. There lay the affinity she felt within. Her children's candid moments reflected fragments of her own abandoned dreams and desires. Yet the growing intimacy with her work also unearthed another layer of fear. The clearer her ambition became, the more she felt the sharp pang of responsibility. Her children weren't just subjects. They were the essence of her passion. Standing at this intersection of motherhood and artistry felt perilous. Would they resent her for choosing this path, or would they sense her authenticity and embrace it? Driven by a newfound resolve, Sarah texted Jake late that night. "Let us meet tomorrow. I want to discuss incorporating my family's daily lives into our project." As she tapped the words, anticipation twisted in her stomach. Could he understand the profound shift she was experiencing? Would he support her exploration of motherhood intertwined with art? The next day, sitting across from Jake once more, she couldn't help but feel vulnerable. "I finally see my work more clearly," she confessed, her fingers nervously tracing the edge of her coffee cup. "It's not just about capturing art, it's about finding ways to express my life through photography." Jake raised an eyebrow, intrigue lighting his features. "How do you envision blending the two?" "By showcasing everyday moments," she explained, her voice steadily growing stronger. "The ordinary magic of family life, the messy, chaotic, beautifully mundane moments nobody truly sees. I want to explore the complexities of motherhood but also maintain my artist's eye." His smile was encouraging. "That sounds incredible. Real art emerges from authenticity. It's not about perfection, it's about truth." His affirmation flooded her with warmth, and she felt the last threads of doubt fall away. Yet just as inspiration filled her heart, her mind wandered to the challenge ahead. The path of melding her identity as a mother with that of an artist would be uncharted territory. The stakes felt higher now. She would have to confront other mothers, her own insecurities, and perhaps the quiet disapproval of those who would question her decisions. There was no backing down now. She was committing to not just her art, but to the messiness of her life. In the following weeks, Sarah observed her family through a different lens. She shifted her focus from merely clicking a button to envisioning stories within each frame. She planned each shot with intention, daring to merge her narrative with theirs. Yet the questions remained. Could these images convey honesty? Could they bridge the gap between the artist she wanted to be and the mother she was? Each photograph reflected a wrestle between conflicting identities, threatening to unsettle her hard-won balance. After another compelling day of shooting, she sat among the chaos of her home, scrolling through her recent images on her camera. Anxiety gripped her heart as she pondered her next steps. Each click had unveiled profound truths, but the deeper she went into this dual journey, the more uncertain she felt about what it might cost her. The moment of revelation loomed, and as she pressed her finger down on the heart of the shutter once more, she realized she was on the verge of discovering something far beyond her expectations. How far would she go in intertwining these two worlds, and what sacrifices would that entail? With her heart racing, she turned the camera to her children again, ready to capture more than just a frame. She aimed to capture her evolving identity. But not without the nagging thought, what if this journey pushed her farther away from the very family she sought to document? Sarah felt an undeniable shift approaching, one that hinted at confrontation with herself and possibly those she loved most. The time had come when simply releasing the shutter wouldn't be enough. She had to confront the emotional weight of her choices, confronting the growing fears, and determine the true cost of her artistic pursuit. What would that cost be, and was she prepared to face it? With a heavy sigh, Sarah set her camera down and allowed the emotions swirling within her to settle. The past few days had been a flurry of images and introspection, each moment captured whispering secrets about her desires and her fears. She stared at a photograph of her children, their faces lit with joy, the background a blurry whirlwind of toys and laughter. But for the first time, instead of just feeling pride as a mother and photographer, she felt a twinge of something else, something darker, doubt. Could she truly forge an authentic narrative that honored both her artistry and motherhood? The question haunted her, echoing in the corners of her mind. Each photo was not just a reminder of their lives, but also a confrontation with her choices. If she immersed herself fully in this project, would it take her away from them? As the shadows lengthened in her living room, she flipped through her recent shots, her critical eye noting the imperfections, the fleeting expressions she missed, the angles that felt off. A crack formed in her growing confidence. She wondered if Jake would still be supportive once he saw her next attempt. Would he question her balancing act or see it as a reckless endeavor? Deciding to address the inner turmoil, Sarah arranged a family outing, hoping the change of scenery would refresh her perspective. At the park, she saw joy in their spontaneity, weaving between swings and slides, her lens ready to capture the essence of their play. But as the moments unfolded, she noticed how fragmented they felt. The laughter was genuine, yet a part of her remained distant, wrestling with the fear of not doing justice to the slice of life she aimed to portray. "Look, Mom!" her eldest, Lily, called as she launched herself off a swing, her face a mix of exhilaration and terror. Sarah responded, snapping a picture, but it felt hollow, a representation detached from the genuine connection she craved to express. Before long, Sarah's frustration bubbled over. "Can you all hold still for just a moment?" she exclaimed, more sharply than she intended. The atmosphere shifted. Her children exchanged confused glances. Guilt wrapped around her heart as she recognized her frustration was stemming from her internal conflict, not their behavior. In that moment of tension, she realized she wasn't just battling the pressures of capturing perfect moments, she was also wrestling with being present and letting go. Apologizing, she knelt, drawing them close. "It's not about the pictures, is it? I just want to remember how fun we are together," she confessed, her voice softened. Their innocence met her vulnerability, and she felt the toll of her fears lighten for the first time that day. Emboldened by this revelation, Sarah began looking at her camera less as a tool of artistic pursuit and more as a bridge to her children's reality. Instead of seeking perfection, she decided to document their rawness, the chaos of lunchboxes, the spontaneity of dance parties, the quiet moments shared under blankets. It was in those chaotic, untamed sequences where she felt her truth would emerge. Back at home, her mind raced with the potential of unfiltered expression. The photography wouldn't be curated or posed. Instead, it would capture layers, honest emotions, and messy love. Perhaps, through this endeavor, she could weave a narrative that celebrated the tumult and tenderness of motherhood. But even as excitement charged the air, a new level of anxiety settled as well. What about the other mothers? The ones who effortlessly appeared to juggle their art, career, and family? Would they take her seriously? Would they see the beauty in her perspective or judge her attempts to blend the two worlds? As the sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah felt a potent combination of determination and dread. This path she was embarking on required not only courage, but also a willingness to confront perceptions hers and those of others. The fine line between personal ambition and family devotion loomed ahead. With newfound clarity, she opened her laptop, ready to craft a pitch for her project, feeling an electric surge of purpose. Suddenly, the concept seemed tangible, rooted in acknowledging her personal conflicts. But just as she began typing, her heart raced again as thoughts of judgment and criticism returned. What if this endeavor risked more than just her art? What if it led her to confront the very identity she sought to embrace? As she hovered over the keyboard, the cursor was poised to begin a new chapter, a reflection of her evolving self. But an unsettling sensation spiraled within her, attention laced with possibilities and fears. Was she truly ready to share her unfiltered truth with the world, or was that at stake? The moment loomed. Would she press forward into the vulnerability of her journey, or would she retreat into the comfort of her previous existence? Fingers trembling, Sarah stared at the blinking cursor, willing it to overcome the inertia of her doubts. The thrill of artistic expression clashed with the fear of exposure, and for a moment, she felt paralyzed. Each letter that needed to form words in her pitch, crafted from her heart, felt like an invitation to judgment. It was exhausting, pulling her in two opposing directions like a tightrope walker battling for balance. In the brief silence that followed her internal conflict, what rose to the surface was a sense that her hesitations didn't embody weakness but rather a quintessential aspect of the artist's journey. The greatest narratives, after all, thrive on authenticity. She recalled the raw energy encapsulated in her children's laughter and unfiltered existence, profoundly beautiful in its imperfection. Could she weave that vitality into her work? Taking a deep breath, she typed a few words. "What does motherhood look like in all its chaos?" The text felt liberating, a seed of potential that flickered with promise. But as the sentence neared completion, a new wave of anxiety crashed over her. What if she stumbled in articulating that idea? What if the truths she intended to unveil trivialized their experiences instead of elevating them? Instead of bottling up her concerns, Sarah reached for her phone and dialed a number she found both familiar and intimidating: her friend Maya, a fellow photographer. They didn't speak often, but when they did, it was usually about the balance of career and home. Maya had always pushed her to embrace vulnerability in her art, a trait Sarah admired deeply yet had yet to embrace herself. "Hey, it's Sarah," she ventured, her heart racing as she paced around her kitchen. "Can we talk? I need your perspective on something." Within minutes they were deep in conversation, and Sarah found herself spilling her tangled emotions and hopes into the phone. She described her vision for the project, emphasizing the shift from perfection to raw documentation. To her relief, Maya listened intently, offering insights that resonated deeply. "What you want to capture is real," Maya affirmed, encouragement evident in her voice. "It's the essence of motherhood. You have to own your perspective. Don't worry about what others think. Focus on what the honesty of your work will bring to your children and to you." Sarah felt the pressure of her burdens lighten slightly. It was a revelation that anchored her thoughts. She needed to abandon the idea of measuring success against the standard of others. Instead, she could define it on her own terms, untethered from societal expectations. "Remember, vulnerability invites connection," Maya continued. "You don't need to be perfect. Just be honest. Engage with your story, even the messy parts." As they wrapped up their call, Sarah realized how little she had considered the narrative spaces between the highlights of motherhood. She started to see the mundane moments with their transformative power as cornerstones of a larger story. They were reflections of her true journey, caught in a tangle of emotions she had shied away from. With renewed vigor, Sarah returned to her laptop and began drafting her pitch again. The words flowed more freely, rolling off her fingertips like a river rushing toward the sea, full of promise and enthusiasm. The cursor no longer felt like an adversary. Instead, it danced across the page, where thoughts transformed to structure. But then, a thought echoed in her mind, billions of worries coiling within. Would her family approve? Would they understand why she chose to expose these parts of their lives to the outside world? The tightening knot in her stomach reminded her of the importance of their voices within the narrative. Could she turn this into a collaborative effort? She considered broaching the subject with Jake and the kids at dinner, seeking their input, their comfort level. This was about them, not just her. Sarah leaned back in her chair, a new flame kindling inside her. The next steps required her not just to think like an artist but to navigate a personal landscape with her family as co-creators. Their response could reshape her path entirely. As she prepared to address this newfound need for collaboration, a small fear flickered again. What if others deemed her artistic voice unworthy? It was there that she realized she had come to a crossroads, ready to step into the open terrain of vulnerability. Would her family embrace this shared journey, or would it unravel the very fabric she sought to weave into art? The weight of her impending revelation loomed, and each heartbeat pulsed with uncertainty and anticipation for the pivotal conversation ahead. The kitchen was alive with the familiar sounds of clattering utensils and sizzling pans as Sarah set the dinner table. The aroma of her latest culinary experiment danced through the air, but her mind was elsewhere, rehearsing the words she intended to share with her family. Tonight was not just about supper, it was about unveiling a project that could change the narrative they had all grown accustomed to. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. Could she really invite them into her artistic process? Would they embrace the inherent vulnerability she yearned to explore, or would they recoil from the exposure? As Jake entered the room, the playful energy of their children followed him. Their laughter momentarily dissipated the weight on her shoulders. "Dinner's almost ready," she called out, her voice laced with a controlled excitement. She could feel the words forming in her mind, but articulating them in a way that felt authentic was daunting. They sat around the table, laughter mingling with the comforting chatter of everyday life. As they passed the plates, Sarah's heart rate quickened. "Actually, there's something I want to discuss with everyone after we eat," she ventured, testing the waters. Jake's eyebrow raised in curiosity, and the kids paused mid-bite. "What's up, Mom?" Sam asked, a piece of chicken dangling precariously from his fork. Yeah, what is it about? Asked Lucy, her eyes sparkling with mischief. It's, about my photography project, Sarah began, sensing the moment to steer the conversation toward her vision. The table fell silent, attention shifting in her direction. With every word, she felt the delicious layers of her confidence peel back, exposing the tender underbelly of her insecurities. She spoke about her idea of capturing motherhood not as a polished depiction but as an honest portrayal of their life together. The chaos of early mornings, the humor in messy moments, and the profound beauty embedded in everyday existence. Do you think you'd be comfortable with that? She asked, pinning her hopes on their reactions. A palpable tension filled the air. Jake glanced at their children, who exchanged uncertain looks. What if you take unflattering pictures of us? Lucy interjected, her voice charged with youthful defensiveness. That's the point, Sarah quickly responded, her heart fluttering with concern. Not unflattering, but real. I want to highlight the love beneath the chaos. Change how we see ourselves and how others see us. Jake leaned back, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. I understand where you're coming from, but has it crossed your mind how this might affect the kids? The internet is a complicated place. His question hit home, and in that moment, doubt crept in. Could she, in pursuit of authenticity, be compromising their privacy? The thought stung. Mom, will people think we're weird? Sam asked, genuine worry etched on his face. A wave of protectiveness washed over her. She noticed how her children desired the safety of a curated, immaculate portrayal of their family unit, and how they believed it represented love. I don't want you to feel exposed or judged, Sarah reassured them. But I also want to capture our truth, the laughter and the messiness, the good times and the hard parts. I want us all to be part of this journey. A mix of contemplative silence enveloped the room as the weight of her words settled. She watched their expressions dart between reluctance and intrigue. Could this be an opportunity for growth, not just for her, but for all of them? Maybe we could do it together? Lucy suggested cautiously. Like brainstorming ideas or deciding what gets shared. Relief and pride flooded Sarah. The prospect of collaboration sparked new light within her. She realized they were beginning to grasp the significance of intertwining their voices into the narrative. Exactly. Sarah smiled, the tension easing from her shoulders. We can explore it together, and make sure everyone is comfortable. The conversation morphed from fear into excitement, as they began to contemplate how their real stories might unfold. Jake interjected with ideas of his own, humorous anecdotes about their chaotic mornings, setting a tone of camaraderie and love. That night, as Sarah tucked the kids into bed, she felt a profound shift within herself. She had opened a door to vulnerability that she once feared. The journey ahead didn't merely belong to her but was a shared exploration, reflecting the interwoven truths of their family. But with this new path came lingering unease. She remembered the importance of honesty still weighed against potential backlash. Would they all be ready for the spotlight of exposure? And as the shadows of doubt lurked behind the glow of possibility, the question remained, would authenticity deepen their connections, or would it risk unraveling their fabric altogether? In the stillness of the night, Sarah contemplated the journey ahead, filled with both uncertainty and promise. This was just the beginning, and she felt her story expanding beyond the confines of her own fears. Would the collaborative embrace hold fast, or would it falter in the light of scrutiny? With her heart racing at the crossroads of creativity and vulnerability, she realized her next move would be crucial. The following days unfolded with a surprising new rhythm, a hum of anticipation mingling with the ordinary. Sarah found herself lost in her thoughts more often than not, encouraged by the seeds of collaboration that had begun to sprout around the dinner table. The prospect of sharing her artistic vision had shifted from a point of tension to a wellspring of inspiration. As she scrolled through her digital portfolio, searching for a coherent thread among the images, Sarah wrestled with a paradox: vulnerability was intertwined with empowerment. The memories held within snapshots provoked a longing to immortalize both the beautiful and chaotic aspects of her life as a mother. Every fleeting moment felt crucial, but capturing that truth felt like riding a tightrope, teetering between what to reveal and what to conceal. During her afternoon walks, Sarah began brainstorming visual concepts and narratives with renewed fervor. Diving deeper into the idea of authenticity, she identified specific moments that encapsulated her family's spirit: spontaneous pillow fights, flour-covered counters after baking, and quiet moments of story time, where animated voices echoed the warmth and love shared. She envisioned a project that emphasized connection rather than perfection. However, visions blurred with uncertainty when she found herself pondering Jake's earlier concerns. Could she truly integrate a narrative that shared the inner workings of their lives? What if their realities conflicted with public perception? In these introspective moments, Sarah recognized a hidden aspect of her own strength. She was fiercely protective of her family and their story. This realization ignited a burning desire to refine her approach. Turning to her notebook, she jotted down ideas of boundaries, guidelines she hoped to establish with Jake and the kids. The more she wrote, the more empowered she felt. She understood they needed to navigate this together. One evening, as sunlight poured through their kitchen window, casting elongated shadows across the table, Sarah gathered her family for an impromptu workshop. She placed blank sheets of paper before them, each person armed with colored markers, and proposed a brainstorming session. "Let us create a visual map of our family story," she said, her heart racing again, but now from excitement rather than fear. "Instead of just me capturing images, I want all of you to weigh in on what resonates. What moments make us feel authentic?" The initial hesitance was palpable in the air, but as they began doodling and sharing ideas, laughter erupted, bridging the slips of uncertainty that had initially clouded their discussions. Sam drew a giant stick figure in pajamas, while Lucy sketched their dog, Lila, mid-leap, illustrating both their everyday chaos and joy. Sarah realized the project was expanding. It was no longer solely her endeavor, but an interwoven tapestry of who they were as a family. However, lurking beneath the joy of creativity was a nagging voice, reminding Sarah of Jake's concerns. She leaned into this unease as she recognized another critical turning point. Would their collective enthusiasm be enough to bolster her resolve when the project faced external scrutiny? The week passed with them diving into more lively discussions, drafting ideas for potential photoshoots, and delineating what aspects of their lives they hesitated to expose. During these conversations, Sarah found her voice growing stronger, clearer. It was as if every shared thought added a brushstroke to her burgeoning masterpiece. Yet inwardly, she faced a mounting tension. What if they fell short of the ideals she envisioned? The burden of representing her family authentically weighed heavily. Each time she picked up a camera, she felt exhilaration mixed with the unsettling prospect of capturing the raw truth. Would she respect the boundaries they began to establish, or would creative pressure lead to oversharing? That night, as she lay in bed, Sarah confronted the crossroads ahead. She recognized that discomfort was inherent to growth. Navigating the precarious balance of exposure required diligence and respect for her family's boundaries. The clock ticked steadily, nudging at her restless mind. She sensed an imminent call to action, a decision that would not only shape her project but redefine how they viewed their collective identity. Would she empower them through revelation or shield them from impending judgment? As the dawn broke the following morning, illuminating her resolve, Sarah understood the journey toward discovery had only just begun. The essence of her family's story lay not within perfect frames, but within the complexities of their shared experiences, deserving of respect and careful evaluation. With pen poised above paper, she prepared to embark on the next phase of her artistic endeavor. Yet, as excitement surged within her, a nagging fear lingered. Conversations still needed to be had. What would Jake truly think as they delved further into their lives? Would he support her vision, or would he pose new challenges that tested the fragility of their newfound resolve? This pivot towards deeper exploration loomed large, and Sarah felt the weight of the upcoming confrontation bearing down, knowing it would set the tone for all that was to come. Morning light poured into the kitchen, awakening the passion that had ignited within Sarah over the past few days. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee wrapped around her, offering a comforting embrace as she prepared to face the uncertainty that lay beneath the surface of her family's artistic project. That day, she would broach the topic with Jake. There could be no more sidestepping the conversation. As she poured a steaming cup, Her mind buzzed with possibilities. The images she sought to create were already dancing in her thoughts, but the spine of this project required their collective commitment. Success would depend not just on her vision, but on the alignment of all family members. Sarah hesitated, her instincts flaring. What if it was deeper than simple disagreement? What if Jake's protective instincts clashed with her creative drive, leaving them in disarray? The sound of footsteps interrupted her thoughts. Sam and Lucy sauntered in, full of morning energy, each brandishing a colorful drawing from her recent workshop. The joy radiating from their faces fueled Sarah's courage. For every sweet moment they captured, there was the potential for an explosion of shared narratives. She reached for the sketch Sam held, his stick figure family and flying dog emblematic of their journey together. "Mom?" Lucy's voice broke through her reverie. "When are we starting our photo project?" "Soon, sweetie. I just—" Her voice trailed off, as doubt gnawed at her mind once more. She needed to share the vision with Jake, but how could she ensure his support? Resolute, she decided to frame their ideas in the light of collaboration, a way to empower rather than confront. As morning melted into afternoon, the moment arrived. Jake returned home from work, his demeanor calm yet distracted. The children scampered off to finish their homework, leaving Sarah and Jake alone at the kitchen table, sunlight pouring across their mismatched mugs. "Hey," she began, her heart racing. "I think it's time we talked about the family project." Jake looked up, a sliver of concern creasing his brow. "I've been meaning to ask, is it worth all the energy? I know you're excited, but what if people judge us?" She finished, trying to mask her trepidation. "I get it. But that's the thing, Jake. This isn't about perfect memories. It's about our real experiences, good and bad." His pause weighed heavy in the air. "But those experiences, what if they don't fit the story we want to tell?" The vulnerability in Jake's voice struck Sarah deeply. This was not about defying him. It was about mutual discovery. We can set boundaries together. We can choose what we want to share and what we want to keep special, just for us. Jake shifted slightly, his apprehension mingling with curiosity. "You want to document everything?" "No, not everything. But I want to include what matters most to us as a family." The words spilled out, carried by the energy of their children's imaginative sketches. "It's about finding authenticity, about connecting, not just for an audience, but for our own legacy." Silence encased them for a beat, until Jake finally nodded. "I see that. We should talk it out with the kids again, make sure they're on board." The relief was palpable, yet Sarah knew the true challenge was just beginning. Although they'd opened the door to dialogue, uncertainties remained. How would the kids react to this deeper involvement? Would they feel the weight of exposure, or would they embrace the chance to shape their narrative? "Let us sit down tonight," she suggested, a smile creeping in. "I'll share the sketches. We can develop more ideas together." Jake smiled faintly, but a shadow of apprehension lingered behind his eyes. Sarah understood that the journey ahead required not just courage but also flexibility. She would need to be alert to everyone's reactions, adapting her approach as they all honed in on their collective story. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah felt renewed purpose stir within her. Capturing the essence of her family in a world that would inevitably have its opinions would mean taking risks, yet it would also mean building something sacred together. But the question lingered ominously. If some boundaries were crossed, what would be lost in the name of authenticity? The evening loomed, charged with possibility. Would their unified exploration stir excitement, or stir unforeseen tensions? She steeled herself for the upcoming conversation, ready to embrace whatever truth emerged from it, however jagged the edges might be. The time had come to face the essence of their identities, all while the stakes grew undeniably higher. Days turned into weeks, and as the autumn leaves turned golden, so did Sarah's determination to capture the genuine fabric of her family's life. It was time to solidify the vision they had begun to weave together. That night, sitting at the kitchen table, sketch sheets cluttered around them like a creative explosion, Sarah sensed the collective energy humming. Jake's skepticism dissolved into excitement, while their children's eyes sparkled with limitless imagination. They had revived the dinner table into a collaborative sanctuary. "We can call it everyday magic," Lucy suggested, her hands full of colorful crayons. Sam grinned, sketching a rough outline of their family playing in the park. Sarah's heart soared. Here it was, this intersection of art and family that had once felt fraught with conflict. In this moment, they were all embraced in something transformative. It was a venture that reflected vulnerability and aspiration. With the project discussions progressing, Sarah realized she was no longer a singular artist fighting her battles in isolation. This was a shared endeavor, where every family member had a stake. They decided to set clear parameters regarding what they felt comfortable sharing. It allowed everyone to express themselves freely while keeping the sanctity of familial life guarded. Everyday magic was no longer just her project. It was their story, their imperfections woven into their successes. Yet Sarah still felt apprehensive. What if outside eyes were too critical? Could they bear the potential backlash? During an especially raw discussion, Jake countered, "We have to prepare for uncomfortable conversations. Authenticity has a price." The truth of his words resonated deeply. Empowered by their collective camaraderie, they began the first photo shoot, a simple afternoon of baking in the kitchen. Flour dusted their faces like fairy powder, laughter echoed against the walls, and as Sarah clicked the shutter, magic unfolded before her lens. She captured unfiltered joy, the children stealing bites of cookie dough, Jake searching for the ideal lighting. Each snapshot echoed with life and authenticity, laying bare fragments of their true selves. The process grew exhilarating. She remained focused on treasuring the raw, chaotic beauty, the very essence of their story. Each time Sarah reviewed the shots, she recognized she had evolved beyond a photographer only seeking accolades. Instead, she used her art to forge connections, to illustrate the warmth of love and realness residing in every fleeting moment. It felt almost like they were salvaging pieces of themselves that had long been buried beneath societal expectations. Yet, along with triumph came trepidation. In one particularly reflective evening, gazing at the printed photographs spread across her dining table, she confronted the looming fears anew. "What happens if we share this and it isn't received as we hope?" she whispered. Jake turned slowly, concern etched in his features. "The only true failure would be to hold back," he replied pensively. "As long as we remain authentic to who we are and protect each other, we have succeeded." Uplifted, Sarah realized for the first time that this wasn't merely about their art. This was about their redemption and newfound reassurance amid the chaos of life. They would present their unglamorous truths, living proof that imperfection was, in fact, magical. With the first collection of their work finally assembled, Sarah felt the crystallizing weight of accomplishment. Despite lingering fears, excitement coursed through her veins. The next step would be unveiling their project to the world. On the chosen day, Sarah gathered her family, their hearts pounding in unison. They assembled for a casual at-home gathering, inviting friends and a few neighbors. That comforting blend of nervousness and pride enveloped them as Sarah shared their journey, how they had embodied vulnerability through art, embracing all parts of their lives. The moment she showcased the first photograph, the room held its breath. Each image sparked laughter, awe, and even tears. Sarah then brought in their crayon-drawn interpretations, layering rich narrative atop each picture. The honesty radiated. Everyone felt the connection. As reactions flowed, genuine appreciation washed over her. They received praise not only for their creative endeavor but for the bravery displayed in revealing their truths amid a world fixed on polished perfection. In that moment, Sarah understood that the exploration had transcended her own aspirations. This was a collaboration of love, acceptance, and growth. Later, standing with Jake, gazing at their children joyfully recounting anecdotes from the capture of their adventures, Sarah felt a profound realization dawn upon her. She saw her family redefining their collective bond, their story intertwined with purpose and compassion. Definitively, Sarah had conquered her greatest battle, the friction between ambition and authenticity, motherhood and artistry. Her once feared aspirations had transformed into a safe haven. They were not just moments documented through a lens, but a collaborative canvas forged in love, resilient against scrutiny. The fears she had felt about their vulnerabilities evaporated, replaced with a robust sense of freedom. As they celebrated their small yet significant victory, Sarah felt a steady pulse of confidence surge within her. They were well on their way to fostering a legacy anchored in connection, where every snapshot told a vibrant tale of their journey together. She had not merely achieved success, she had built a foundation of acceptance, redefining her family's identity. This was the moment she had aimed for. Sarah realized she had stepped into her role not only as a mother but as a compelling artist, one who now illustrated the profound beauty that lay in embracing imperfection. She was now fully grounded in her craft, equipped with the assurance that art could serve as a powerful bridge between inner worlds. And so, with renewed resolve, life would unfold beautifully, carrying forth the promise of everyday magic into the realm of possibility, a testament to the adventures still waiting to be captured and cherished, together as a family. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire personal transformations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for these incredible journeys. Comment your reactions and theories about Sarah's transformation and collaborative journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion to our heroes' tales. Your actions matter in spreading these vital stories. Don't wait even one more second.